Welcome. This podcast is an exploration into being human and what's possible when there's less attention on the noise in our heads. Warning. While listening to this broadcast, you may experience moments of deep peace, sighs of relief, personal insights, or long stretches of dead air. Do not be afraid. This is normal. Under the Noise with Win Morgan and Kate Roberts.
Welcome to Under the Noise. I'm Kate Roberts, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Win Morgan. How are you, Win?
Very well, thanks, especially after that double amazing introduction.
I know. You get two.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Two for the price of one. Don't expect me to pay for the first one, so no.
You always
Very
end up.
much my amazing co-host, Kate Roberts.
You will pay. You know
Will
it.
pay. Yeah. In blood. Blood, teeth, kidneys. Anything else?
Hopefully not. Maybe I just give you a hard time.
Yeah, which might be even worse.
It might be.
Please know, if you're only listening to this, not watching on YouTube, this is called banter and fun between two friends. There is not much seriousness going on here at this stage, but yeah, we do have a great friendship where we will tease each other incessantly, and that's one way we love each other.
Thank you for that, Win.
Just in case someone...
Sure, they appreciate it. I'm sure they appreciated it. So we had a request, a topic request from one of my favorite listeners of all times. I know.
So I know we have a question coming, but I didn't know who it's from. And of course, that will remain a secret from
Exactly.
our dear listener right now. But I'm thrilled that we have a request.
Me too. Me too. Love it. Okay, so the topic revolves around living the principles in work and in life, but with your closest relationships not at all interested in it or even hearing about it. And does this create personal turmoil? Since we kind of have created a podcast, not just for people that are interested in the principles, but for everyone, why don't you do a little bit about the principles for those people that don't know at all what that is?
Well, thanks for that and springing it on me.
Just a little short thing.
Yeah, let's put him on the spot. So what's called the three principles were based upon the insights and discoveries of a gentleman called Sydney Banks. And he had an insight his first major insight back in 1973, as far as I remember from reading. And he saw through the material illusion of life, in his words. And then over the next few decades, as he was sharing what he'd seen, he discovered that to help people understand what he was pointing at, some words or some form was helpful, so people could get their heads around what he was pointing at. And it was called a few things, and then the most recent version of what it was called is called the three principles. Now, the three principles are universal mind, universal thought, and universal consciousness. And to me, there's just heaps of ways of describing what they'd be. And it can get very heady. And very much about the words as opposed to what the point that Sydney Banks was getting at. So here's what it's meant to me over the last 12 to 14 years. I now understand a little bit about how I as a human being work in the same way as 8 billion of us do right now on the planet, which is that how I feel my emotions moment to moment look like, and my mood moment by moment look like they are being caused by external factors. People, things, my bank account, what she said, what he said, what he's doing, what she's doing. Like work, it could be anything that I could point the finger to that looks like it's the cause, the external cause for how I feel on the inside. And the truth is, there's something in between that is the missing link between the external world and my internal emotional system and psychological system. And that's the fact that human beings think, and what we think can look very compelling and real to us. Also, not only can it look compelling and real, it can look permanent. It can look like it's just, well, I've thought this before, so therefore I've thought it again, therefore I constantly think it, and it's now a part of me. Also, it can make the impersonal aspects of life feel very personal. Or saying it even simpler, the meaning that we put on everything that's happening in the external world, the meaning and the interpretation of that is coming from my gift of thought. So the same way as I can salivate over what I might be having for dinner later is also the same thing that can make me feel regretful or even resentful of something that happened yesterday or 30 years ago. The same method, the same mechanism happening inside of me. And the other thing that it does is it helps me understand moods. So when I'm feeling in a really good mood, what I think just looks like just what I think. And it will just come and go. I won't take life personally. But then in a lower mood, and I know moods very well, we've been close friends, certainly for the first 42 years of my life, and that's kind of like loosened in the last dozen or so. That in a lower mood, everything out there looks different, and not in a good way. It looks like is distress that can be caused internally based upon the same external thing. So let's take an example. My bank balance in a lower mood can look like it's a big problem. And in a higher mood, it would just be numbers. Now, it doesn't mean not to do anything about it. But it's just useful to know that that's what's happening inside of me. And therefore, when I understand moods, I'm not so impacted by them because I don't take what I think so seriously, personally, or permanently. And then there's another aspect that, as I sit here right now, sharing what I've seen, is that all of that is a spiritual gift, in my opinion. The ability for me to have a memory of things in the past and daydreams about things in the future that can feel great or can feel horrible or can feel neutral, the ability to do that and the ability that I have as a human being to put meaning to arbitrary things is what gives life meaning. So as a conscious, sapient being filled with energy and in this temporary form of matter, here I am alive, and knowing I'm alive, I'm being able to experience the world, the universe, you and everyone else in it. As far as I'm aware, a blade of grass can't do that. The house brick and the roof on my tiles can't do that. I can have those experiences, which is what makes this certain number of years of being sapient and conscious incredibly precious to me. And by me knowing that, what I do with my time here is very different than what I did before I realized that little thing. So you asked for it. And that's what I think right now at the time of recording.
Thank you.
What comes up for you?
What comes up for me? It can get kind of wordy, right? We can put so many words to what this looks like. But, in the very beginning, when I mentioned this topic, the words outside in for how the majority of human beings experience life. Well, excuse me, think they experience life, right? And to what you're saying, that's not really the way that we work as human beings. So we're only ever experiencing our own thinking in life. So that's kind of what showed up for me. And I thought maybe I'd read the topic again since we're bringing it back to the topic. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So living the principles in work and life, but with your closest relationships not at all interested in it or hearing about it. And does that create personal turmoil?
There's so many angles to go with that question in my mind. And there's a few things that I guess we can mull over in a second, but I want to go to the very last part of that question, which was what brings turmoil?
Yeah.
And if it's true, going back to what you just said about that we're feeling our thinking, it's not outside in, then turmoil has got nothing to do with anybody else. That's not how turmoil, as an example of an emotion, works. And I get it that we'd like our closest relationship to be on the same page with us in what we value and love to talk about. That said, I don't know to what extent that's true. So it's just a question back rhetorically to our dear listener and to you listening, who is one of the other thousands of people who is not the person who sent this in. It's an interesting thing to bear in mind. If turmoil only comes from my thinking about what's happening, not from them, it brings up a whole other world of possibility and something else to reflect on. My well-being not depending on the people I'm closest to having the same view about, or the same words for, what I think about life. My well-being doesn't depend upon that. But I have to see that. It's not enough to hear it. It has to be seen for ourselves on that. And before you hit record today and you shared that question with me, we had a few minutes of, as we were just getting ready, I shared that in my first few years of understanding and delving into the three principles, I would talk incessantly about them to anyone and everyone, whether they liked it or not. And more often than not, they didn't like it because I didn't get permission, and I just started spouting off. That's my word for what I did. And it was my how to lose friends and alienate people phase. I remember being on a date with somebody, actually, and she said to me, "Geez, you talk like you got some kind of superpower and it's a secret that only you know." And it's funny because what I said next surprised me, and I said yes. And I went, Yes, I'm on the wrong track here. So I took it back. Now, she forgave me. We carried on seeing each other for a while after that. That wasn't the reason it didn't work out in the next year or so. But I remember that vividly. And it was just me pushing my agenda. And you might think, well, no, isn't it great for everyone? Yeah, but only if they want it. In the same way that the likelihood of me convincing everyone that the best American football team to support are the San Francisco 49ers, that's just my thing. Or that it has to be that one sport, and that's the only hobby to have is watching sport, and that one sport of the NFL, and that one team in the NFL is the thing. Of course, it doesn't have to be that way. But I find it very easy to slip into that in many different ways, that what my own opinions are just has to be a fundamental truth for everyone else. So I've just learned to soften my own opinion on things a little bit, knowing that I'm still going to get it wrong, or going to forget that time and time again. But I'll still do my best and connect more than wanting them to agree with what I'm saying and see. I'd rather value the relationship more than them listen to my own views on life. That's just me.
You know what I love about this topic? Is that it's truly the principles in action. And I don't know how much we're living the principles as much as the principles are how we live. So if I have beliefs like, really strong, powerful beliefs that the people closest to me need to listen to me, hear me, want to know about the things that I'm hearing or that are changing me, and they don't, then it will, because this is how it works. If those are my beliefs, it will create personal turmoil. Because in my mind, I believe that the people closest to me need to maybe even share these beliefs, hear me, listen, need to be interested in this because I'm interested in it. So if I believe it and they're not showing up that way, it will feel just like personal turmoil inside me. Because I haven't seen yet that I'm living out these beliefs and it's showing up in my life. Like the projector that so many 3 principles people love to talk about, right? We're projecting our experience of life. But we don't see that we're walking around with all these beliefs, these ideas about life or how things should be. So we have them and they feel really real and they create our experience. Like there's nothing going on other than that. It's funny though. Up until recently, not sure if I've had people closest to me share my beliefs or be interested in my beliefs about things. So it never occurred to me that they should. So I have a completely different experience of mine, right? And that's how it shows up in my experience. That's sometimes that's not even wanted. Like I don't want to necessarily have those conversations with every person that I run into, right? So I almost kind of prefer that maybe I don't have those conversations, depending on my mood, I guess, or if I feel like chatting or whatever. So sometimes it's nice when some of my closest relationships aren't having those conversations because I get to just, I don't know, be still, be with them, talk about silly things and, kind of have these casual conversations sometimes or not talk at all. So I have my beliefs that are playing out in my experience in a different way about the same subject, which is very interesting. But that's why I love this question, is because whatever our beliefs are, whatever our thinking is, whether we're aware of it or not, that's our experience of life. It's the only thing happening. And that could be amazing or terrifying. But somehow knowing that that's what's happening, at least in my experience of this understanding, when I start to see how it works and I start to notice my own beliefs and thinking showing up and how it looks real in my life, there's this beautiful space. And you and I have talked about this space so many times, this space between our thinking and our thinking basically driving the ship. And we don't know it. Can't see it. And that still happens to me all the time, but like the more that I look in this direction, the more that space seems to grow. Especially when I'm curious. And if it feels like turmoil, and sometimes it does, That's my opportunity to notice that I'm caught up in my thinking, or that I have some belief that I don't even know that I've got playing out somehow. And I felt that. Do you hear anything in the room?
Well, I'm really glad that you brought it back to that space, because in that space, there's only love and acceptance. In that space, there's no space for turmoil. In that space, then, everything's seen for what it is, not my perceived way of seeing it, that it needs to be a certain way. And in that space as well, conversations are far easier. It doesn't feel to them like I'm pushing my ideas on somebody, because we know what that feels like. When we're on the receiving end of that, and then we can drop back into the space, because if I'm not in that space, then I must be in my head. I must be in my ideas of how things should be or shouldn't be. In that space, the space that you were referring to, there is no there. There's only here. There's only us. There isn't a me and them, or a me and you. There's one, which is a beautiful thing to remember. For me, anyway, having spent time with people with lots of different beliefs and values than the ones that I prefer to have for myself, that needn't be a barrier to me and them having a great relationship, whatever that relationship is. And I hope this has been helpful to you, who sent in this question, and to anybody else who would understand the nature of that question as we do. I think we've all been there.
There's something that I want to add that feels kind of new and fresh for me. And so I'm probably not going to have the right words. But there's a lot of talk in the three principles community about finding a good feeling, that good, beautiful feeling. And I think that that's really valuable, because I think that even if you have never felt that before or remember feeling it, right? Or you don't know how to get there, and that's okay. And I love that people have a conversation about that feeling, because it's a direction to point yourself toward, right? But I think that space that starts when you start to catch on to how things work, I think that space is possible even with a feeling of turmoil. You don't have to have this perfect, beautiful feeling to be looking in this direction. You can have turmoil, but there's a space around turmoil that maybe wasn't there before. That maybe we just hold turmoil just a little lighter. that it maybe seems just a little bit more temporary. It doesn't have to be a perfect, beautiful feeling. It can exist within our experience of turmoil, I think. But it's different. It feels lighter somehow. And that lighter feeling can be that space as well. So if you're the listener, or if you're anyone hearing this podcast that feels turmoil right this second, okay. You can feel anything. You can have any experience in life, including turmoil. And hopefully, at some point, it will feel lighter, and you will notice that it doesn't stick around every second. And honestly, we're built for this. We can feel all of it and still be okay.
And to me, that's something else that's really worth noticing, and I'm really happy you brought that up and took us there today. Because it's not about changing the feeling of turmoil to something else. It's having a deeper feeling, a deeper knowing of exactly what you just said. I'm feeling turmoil right now, and it's still okay. This is what it is to be human. That kind of depth of feeling towards every emotion that is the transient emotion of being a human being. And then there's the awakening of seeing it almost in the third dimension of noticing, oh, that's what this is. A human feeling. Thank you. And thanks again to you who sent that in, and you as a listener, if you didn't send that in, an invitation for you to send in yours to either Kate or myself, and our details follow the outro. They're in the outro that Kate voices over in a moment or two. And before then, I just want to thank you, Kate, and thank you for listening to wherever you are listening to this, and we'll speak to you again soon. Have a great week.
Thanks for joining us. We'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have a topic or question that you'd like us to chat about, email Wynn or Kate at wynn@winning.co.uk and Kate at katerobertscoaching.com. Until then, enjoy what's possible under the noise.